People who were mentioned in someone's suicide note. What's your story? He wanted me to know he loved me. That it wasn't my fault. That I was the best friend anyone could want or have. That I should have his car. That he thought he was going mad and was saving his brother and me from the madness. I showed the note to my therapist. She thinks he had schizophrenia. His mom did. It's been 6 years. I'm still not over his death. Doubt I ever will be. My mom committed suicide after finding out that her tumor was malignant. She had just lost her father a year before and her mother died in treatment for cancer. She laid everything out, notes to specific people and how she wanted things done. I have always been an old soul and she planned for me to find her as I would be the reasonable person I am. But that day I was invited to try out for the debate team, so I came home late, and my little sister was the one who found her. When my stepdad, and the father of my 3 younger brothers, killed himself last month, he didn't leave a note. What he did do, I didn't even know that was possible, was queue up 3 texts, so they wouldn't be received until the morning after. At exactly 8 a.m., all 3 of my brothers received a text from him. To my 2 oldest brothers, 19 and 17, I love you forever. I'm sorry, I just can't live with this any longer. To my youngest brother, 13, you are a very special boy and I'll love you forever. 20. I asked my youngest brother if it had made it better or worse. He said worse. No note, just a phone call to preteen me that had stayed up too late because my single-parent mother had gone out looking to score whatever pills would sate her addiction. Kid me had no idea, adult me now knows it was obvious. I don't remember the call completely, but I do remember being annoyed she'd kicked me off the dial-up by calling in. She said and made me promise a bunch of things that felt very serious but also very confusing, and then we hung up. Police officer knocked on the door a few hours later and everything changed. No one but me knows about that phone call, especially not my brother. I'll be the exact same age she was, down to the hour, in roughly 500 days. I keep a countdown timer on my phone. One of the promises she made me make was to live longer than she did. My birth mom killed herself and I know she wrote my name down on a letter. My birth family never let me see it, but I have speculated for many years. I think she felt bad for putting me up for adoption at a young age. The adopted family that took me in didn't really want me, so they sent me to a bunch of boarding schools during my childhood. I was sexually abused at those schools, so I think my birth mom somehow thought it was her fault. Funnily enough, I remember blaming myself for her death after it happened. It took me years to get over, but I'm doing much better. I still miss her. One of my best friend's mother committed suicide and had a little message for her 2 children in her suicide note. It was mostly straight down the line apologetic, and an explanation as to why. Spinal cancer which metastasized and it was only downhill for her. She did her taxes, paid all her bills, got all her paperwork in order, wrote a farewell note and swallowed a bottle of painkillers. I only managed to see a small section of the note as I was the second non-emergency person on the scene. My friend was the first, but enough to know it was her way of trying to make things as painless as possible for everyone else. Even though nobody was mentioned, this specific note stays close to my heart to this day. My dad is a retired detective, and one day a few years ago he came home from work visually distraught. I usually talk to him about his day, so I asked him what was wrong and he told me a young man, I think around 22, had committed suicide and the note broke his heart. I asked what it said and it read something like, "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger. I hope to see you both someday in a place that's beautiful." It was my dad's note, telling us boys that he is so proud of the man we've become, and even just writing that now makes me cry happy and sad tears. It's been just over 4 years now. He was a great dad and had such a profoundly positive impact on who I am today. Even with how it ended, I couldn't ask for a better dad. He was something else. I'm a lucky kid. Wish he could see me now. I'm glad he knew my wife before he went. Wish he could meet my nephew. I love you, Dad. I still miss the hell out of you, you ornery old hippie. You're still my hero. Thank you for everything. Valp, wasn't expecting that wave. Thank you. It's been a minute since I cried for him. My stepfather tried twice in 12 hours. The police would not give my mother the suicide note, even though he told them to. So, I asked my mother if she wanted to see it. She said yes, and I baked his computer. He thought he had deleted the file. Nope. I opened it, and I tried not to read it. But I say my name. He said he did not like me living with him and not paying rent. I was between jobs, and financially, broke. He also said I was a good cook. From what my mother told me about the note, It was about a 2-week span leading up to his incident, and there was no love in the note. It's been 5 months since then. I am in another city working, and living well. I saw him on Sunday night on my way to a work site, and my mother is away. I feared he would be hanging when I go there, but he seemed happy to see me. For him it's all over and forgotten. For me, I have to cope with my mother's feelings, distrust and disgust at his actions, and in particular lack of explanation. I just keep moving. I realized that the facade he had up all my time with him, was not who he was, and that's sad. He didn't have the confidence to show he was hurting, or that he was under pressure. He wasn't really under any pressure but what he told himself he should be. He didn't really understand that we are a family and we accept flaws. My stepdad committed suicide when I was about 7 years old. In his letter he wrote he was lonely since my mother left him. He mentioned that he couldn't live anymore because I didn't want to see him anymore and didn't want to talk to him on the phone when he called my mother the last time. I found him hanging on my grandmother's attic where I played hide and seek with my cousin. At this time he was 3 weeks dead. It's difficult to think about it. Even though I know I was just a child and I had my reasons, he was an alcoholic who beat my mother in front of me every time he drank. I still feel guilty. And for that feeling I hate him. On the other hand, I know he was a wreck, destroyed by his parents. But neither my mother nor I were responsible for this. Been in too. First, best friend's younger brother shot himself downtown in a popular street section an hour after I was the last to speak with him. We weren't the best friends but we grew up together and shared many moments. Last moments together I bought him a Bud Light and a shot of Pendleton whiskey. His and my thing. He wrote how I almost changed his mind with my words. I didn't know till a week later what he'd done. I feel terrible for not seeing it. His brother and I broke apart heavily afterwards after being best friends since our junior year. Second, my ex-girlfriend from high school, year and a half out of high school. She called me the person who listened most to her. I didn't love her. But I did care about her. Attended her funeral and some treated me like the cause. Others actually realized she was going to die sooner or later from a heart condition. I respect her choice. She chose the way she lived and died. My best friend killed himself when we were 16. Definitely has been the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my entire life. I've questioned reality since that day, and I think part of my questions comes from the fact that he didn't leave a note. There was no final goodbye. I'm not sure if a note would have helped bring everyone closure, but writing no note, I just know he was in such a dark place and didn't want to burden anyone. It was all because of a girl, and I'm near positive if he would have been able to survive 6 months post-breakup he would have been fine. That's what is so scary about deep depression, that you can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Your mind is consumed with your emotions and you feel no hope. He made a permanent decision to a temporary problem, and although his pain is gone, everyone who loved him is still in pain. I feel so bad for his dad who found him. My amazing cousin killed himself when I was 16. He was 26. We found the note a few weeks later. He'd singled out immediate family members with a love, goodbye note. No one else except his 4 siblings and parents. Then there was my mom, my brother, and then me at the bottom. You're going to grow up and be amazing, you're going to be a star. You don't know, wait till your fave person in the world thinks the world of you, and that's the last thing they think before they die. And you have no idea how to live up to it. Haunting and inspiring. You don't forget it. A friend's younger sister got a massive crush on me. Would text me all the time and get mad if I didn't reply immediately. I tried to never lead her on and did my best to let her down easy, but I was young and dumb and didn't know how to deal with it. So the thing continued. By the time I finally worked up the courage to say that this was unhealthy and that we needed to stop, it was already like 3 months. The next day my mom told me she tried to kill herself. She told me about the note. She tried to protect me, but it wasn't too hard to figure out what the note said, or confirm it. She wrote she was killing herself because I didn't love her back. 16-year-old me did not know how to handle that, and honestly messed me up a bit for a while. My mom told me the best thing I could do was give her space, not talk to her and tell her if the girl texted me again. The girl recovered and attempted to reach out to me a few more times after that, but I didn't respond. It's been 6 years now and I wonder all the time if she is okay. I hope so. There was a girl who was suffering really hard from some emotional problems, culture shock, depression among other things. She took to a Facebook group and began looking for support for things that were not about her or in her control. She broke this Facebook group's rules about doxing someone who was already in jail and could not, and never did, hurt her, posting about the place he worked, his home address, his full name etc. I was one of the people who told her that doxing him was unnecessary because he was already in jail, was not leaving soon, and that it was against the group's rules. The post got removed. A few months later she killed herself and cited the group taking down her post as one of the reasons why she did it. Honestly, I'm very sad that she did that. I don't feel like I did anything wrong though. Would I have not reported the post if I knew that it would mean I wasn't implicated? Sure. But I know realistically that she would still have had a list and gone through with it eventually. She was not okay. 7 months ago my girlfriend committed suicide because her father was abusive and her friends were all against her because she started dating me. I believe one of her friends had a crush on me. A week later I got a text from her with a suicide note and it read, "Dear little pariah 47, I just want you to know that you were the most kind person I ever met and I love you for that. However, I can't take it anymore and I know you will find someone after I'm gone, so as you're reading this I've already taken my life. Thank you for helping me the best you could have and thank you for being my boyfriend." After I read the text I immediately rushed over to her house, which was about 20 minutes away, and I arrived the police already there and my heart sank and felt tears overflowing out my eyes. I entered a state of deep depression and almost attempted suicide as well. I started drinking and cutting myself, and after about 2 weeks I stopped going to school and blocked myself off from my friends and family. I wouldn't answer their texts and calls and eventually they finally had enough and assigned me a therapist, and I'm still trying to get over it, but I'm getting better. I was at my friend's place one time, and saw my name mentioned in something she had written down. When she went out for a bit, I took a peek as I was curious. I can't remember much of what she wrote, aside from the part to me, "I wish you would just talk more." I was a pretty quiet guy, even though she was my closest friend. At that point in time I was pretty much always quiet. I didn't know what to do, or how to bring it up. I knew she self-harmed, and was worried she'd follow through. At 11 p.m. that night, after stressing about it all day, I called her up in tears, and told her I found it. She drove to my place, picked me up and we had a talk. She said she wished I didn't find it, that writing things like that helped her. She normally throws them away. She's fine now. We parted ways a while back, then reconnected and follow each other on IG now. We don't talk much, if at all, but it's good to know she got through that. My current GF attempted to odd about 4 years ago. We weren't dating at the time, but we were close friends. However, we did have a prior on again off again thing, but that wasn't what caused it or anything. Anyway, she had terrible anxiety and PTSD of an incident when she was a young girl. I knew of this before she tried and she was deeply affected by it. Thing is, I was the only person that knew at that point and not even her parents knew. And her parents aren't that great. She's the smartest one in her family and the only one that's ever been to college, so throughout high school they put an immense amount of pressure on her, and on top of that she was basically raising her 2-year-old nephew because her sister is lazy. Anyway, shitty thing on my part is that after school I went to take a nap because I had been up since 5 that day and had athletics and all that. And when I woke up 3 hours later she wasn't responding. Turns out she tried to odd and I wasn't there for her cause I was napping. Thing is, she didn't even leave a note. If she would have died I can't even imagine how my life would have went. She's my best friend now and she's definitely gotten better. Planning to marry her soon. Once I wrote a suicide note but didn't attempt it. My friend who was in the note found it, and after that, because of them, I'm doing much better. Now we see each other a lot because they sometimes accompanies me to my therapy. Everybody who posts something here, I'm sorry for whatever you have gone through, but if you know something is going on with your friend, check up on them just in case. I most likely wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for my best friend checking my stuff. I often would write some really messed up stuff, and a lot of it was because of my mental disorders, because I'm depressed, bipolar, and have multiple personalities.